Okay, just a quickish video. I've just been out on the Guzzi today, the V85TT. So running it in, got 6 miles on the clock when I got it. I've just done 175 today, going down to Bodmin in Cornwall and back. A bit of a mixture of all types of roads, really. I just wanted to put some miles on it, I suppose. I've not ridden a test bike, which I suppose is a bit reckless, buying a bike without a test ride, but I kind of question what you gain from a test ride, really. You know, going and borrowing a dealer's bike and taking it out for an hour. I think if you've looked and researched and pinpointed exactly what you need from a bike, then I don't think really a test ride can achieve too much, unless it's a really crap bike and it really throws a spanner in the works and you want to, you know, makes you immediately choose something else. So I think test rides are probably a bit overrated, and that's coming from, you know, working as a journalist on bike magazines, when you get 70 miles on a bike to make a final assessment of it, and it's just not long enough. You know, to really gain the truth of a bike, you need days, weeks, thousands of miles to really know whether you're going to like it. I mean, there's some bikes you can get on and do 100 miles and you love it for the first 100 miles, and then the miles after that you hate it. KTM 1190 spring to mind. I love that. The first day or two I had that, and after a few days I couldn't stand it. It was just not my cup of tea. So you know, they're a bit one-dimensional road tests. So happy to report that I really like the bike today. Is it dynamically the best bike in the world? I'm probably not convinced that it is. You know, I think if you rode this against a Tiger or a BMW F85TT, I think they'd probably handle it. They feel a bit sharp, a bit more feelsome at the front. But that's not to say that the Guzzi doesn't do those things well. I think the ride quality is pretty good on this. It's a little bit firm. I think the settings are standard, so I'm just going to need to soften that off a little bit. It just jars a bit over the bumps and feels a bit vague on the front end, just a touch. But the road conditions aren't great, very wet, muddy, obviously new tyres and a tentative rider. It's the first time I've really been out on a bigger bike for about 4 or 5 months, so I feel probably a little bit tight. And a new father means that I'm probably a little bit more reserved riding than I usually would. Comfort of the bike is really good. I really like the riding position, the seating position. The seat's a little bit firmer than I thought it might be. I'm going to get a cool cover made and fitted to it, which is a seat cover made by a friend, John. He runs a company that makes these custom seat covers, and it's just a weave, a fabric weave, mesh weave that just adds comfort, everyday, all-day comfort. And I've used those on all my bikes in the last few years, and I'll get one for the Guzzi, and I think that'll mean that I can do long days day in day out on it. Engine I thought was really crisp on this, really nice. I think it got a lot more grunt, even though I'm just running it in, so obviously revs are limited to 4,500 when the lights flash on, but a lot of meat in the sort of 3,000 to 4,000 rev range. Picks up cleanly, really smooth, really good propulsion from the engine. You know, people will say you need more power than 80 brake horsepower. I'm not convinced. You know, I think if you can't make good progress on 80 brake horsepower, then you probably need to improve your riding rather than buying a faster bike. I think you can get around most things and cover ground pretty quickly with 80 brake horsepower. So at the minute, I'm more than happy with the amount of power. Great brakes on it, really good front brakes, Brembos, nice stopping power, good feel. Happy with that. It's not got the ABS lean sensors and things, you know, not a cornering ABS like some of the bikes now, but I don't think that matters too much. You know, again, if you've overcooked it going into a corner, then probably you ought to be looking at your riding rather than needing leaning ABS. So it's got basic ABS, which is straight line ABS, which is enough for me. One thing that people have asked about is the gearbox. Is it clunky like old Guzzis? I'm going to say the gearbox is brilliant. It's a really smooth, easy to transition gearbox, easy to find neutral, no problems at all with the gearbox. It's not got a lot of travel. It's not got like a really positive up clunk or down clunk, but it's really clean, snickety. Feels good. No problems there. The gear indicator position is it's one of those crappy ones that take the gear from the output shaft or something, so when the clutch is pulled in, it doesn't read, which is the times when you need it. When you're coming into a roundabout, you think, maybe I'm in second or third, I'll just glance down, oh wait a minute, clutch is pulled in, there's no readout. I've seen a few bikes with that on, and I don't think it's the best system, but you know, again, if you need to use a gear position sensor. Maybe I should be paying more attention to what gear I'm in to begin with. Cruise control on this works really well, really nice, easy, intuitive system. It's just got a rocker switch on the left bar that you push in for 2 seconds, and that activates the system or puts it in standby mode. Press the button again once and that turns it on, and then you can paddle up or down to up or down the speed, turn it off by the brake or a dab of the clutch. So yeah, really good cruise control, happy with that. Most importantly, I just like the feel of the bike. You know, it does feel nice, it looks nice. I like parking it up, I like looking at it as I sat drinking my coffee in Widmouth Bay Cafe. It feels manageable. I think that's what I like about it. You know, it's got a sort of a GS-ness about it, but it's not as weighty as my GS 1200. It feels, you can get your feet down, you can maneuver it around. It's got a lovely sweet clutch, throttle engagement, so when you're needing to do those slow speed pullaways or U-turns, it's got a nice precision about it at that, and a nice balance to it. So I think it's got a lot of attributes of a GS. It's almost like a shrunken GS 1200 or 1150, I guess that's how I see it, especially with the shaft drive. And that's really why I chose it in the first place, as a sort of miniature GS. Obviously not, I mean 850cc is not overly miniature, but compared to a 1200 it is. So that's it. TFT screen's probably a touch too small. I'd like a little bit more screen size on that, just because when you look down, it's sometimes hard just to pinpoint what speed you're doing or any other information. Probably could do with a little bit bigger screen. What else we got? I think that is it, apart from the fact, and I've read it many times, that there's not very good mudguarding on this. It's just got the higher mudguard, it's got no low level mudguard, and that really shows, you know, after the first 10 miles or so, the entire engine was caked in road dirt and mud from the road. And also at the back, you know, the back swing arm and shaft drive was just caked in mud, and it also flicked up and onto the pillion seat as well, which I don't think is particularly great, and the Italians clearly didn't think about the bike being used in a British winter. Maybe in Italy where the sun is shining, then it's fantastic, but I think for our roads it probably needs a little bit more fender protection. Interestingly, a common modification that riders of the V85 are making is to fit a Capanord Rally front mudguard and front hugger, which just bolts straight on. Take these side covers off, bolts straight on. They're about 50 quid, 45 quid. Apparently they're out of stock now because they're proving that popular. Looks a bit ungainly, but I think for winter use it'd probably be handy. Pyramid Plastics, I think, are also working on something, and maybe they'll come out with a hugger as well at the rear. So yeah, all in all, you know, first day out on a new bike. I think I'm going to gel with it really nicely. I think I'm going to like riding it big distances. I think I'm going to enjoy getting it loaded up. It feels like a bike that wants to be loaded with gear and taken on an adventure, on a journey. And it's one of those bikes, you know, you can kind of seeing the way journalists approach these bikes. You know, it's one of those bikes that probably doesn't get in a lot of immediate high praise, because in a one-day test ride that most bike launchers are, you know, the journalists go out for a day, ride the bikes on the best roads in Europe as fast as they can, and unless that bike's really sharp dynamically or really fast performance-wise, so there's a lot of bikes that just don't shine in that environment, and therefore as a result the write-up is not necessarily lackluster, but it's just not as enthusiastic as a fast bike. And I think the Guzzi is one of those bikes that probably just doesn't shine as brightly as some on that one day of riding, but I think over time, I think it really comes into its own. So I'm going to play around with the suspension, see what I can do with that. Although I'm not in an immediate rush, it rides perfectly well, but I think it could be fine-tuned just a touch. It is fully adjustable, preload and dampening. So that's it. Going to clean it and then do some more miles this week. Cheers. Bye.